How are you doing, Paul? How are you? You okay?
I'm good, thank you. It's lovely to see you.
It seems like it's been a while since we last bumped into each other, actually.
It would have been on a speaking circuit somewhere, passing in
Yeah.
the night, something like that.
I think, did you speak for one of the Arla gigs one of the times, or was it perhaps like a property landlord event, or where do you think?
I mean, landlord. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I speak really everywhere. I do a lot of Arla events a year. Obviously, thus, with lockdown, I think I've done in lockdown the last 6 months. I've done something like 40 webinars and podcasts and Facebook lives. It's been mental, and I think the most important thing I said to our directors a day before we actually officially went into lockdown, which was at the end of March, I said engagement with your customer is so important. You'll come
Mm.
out of this with regard to brand loyalty, and it is, and it's resonated. And I've actually got a lot of the guys here that normally wouldn't public speak to actually do that and engage with clients. It's been really important.
It is, and I think you've got such a wealth of knowledge, Paul, as well. I mean, you are, I think, actually one of the most untapped resources in the UK. I know you do so much, but I think you could actually do so much more if people recognise how they could utilise your knowledge. I mean, you said recently that you're actually doing something direct to landlords at the moment. You're doing so try and raise awareness that they should be using letting agents. Tell me about that, Paul. What is that you're doing?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, we're talking about exactly how I have loads and loads of different hats. So I've been public speaking. I think I did my first talk in 2001, and I wrote a couple of books actually. I wrote a book with our good friend Kate Faulkner called The Landlord's Friend.
That'd be a
The
good
biggest
read.
problem that a landlord has is they never put a price on their time. Okay, and we know 80-90% of landlords have one or two properties, and there'll be a lot of letting agents watching this, and they will be getting they're at the end of the phone getting a disease called landlord rage, where they're having to help landlords and hold their hands. And actually, for a long time now, I've been training letting agents in a bit of a different way that you do, more, real landlord mindset, because I am a landlord, is how to upsell let only to full management services, because actually it works out on a £600 a month rent. The daily rent for a letting agent on full management at 10% is like £2.43 a day. I mean, it's like a complete and utter
Less
nonsense.
than a coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you go to Starbucks, they cost a fortune. Not that I drink coffee. I've written a course which I'm launching in January for landlords, called Self Manage or Not to Self Manage. And the whole objective is to put a price on your time. It's like a 2-hour course. I'm going to do it very practical based, and I'm going to film it in our boardroom here, but have a couple of landlords and letting agents in a room and engage with them. And actually, the whole point of watching the online course for a couple of hours will actually be, you know what, I'm going to use a letting agent. I'm going to get them to full management. And there's so many landlords, you know what landlords are like. They don't like spending money, and they think they can save themselves a bit of money, but actually they don't realise, well, do I really want to take a call from to fix a broken boiler, or a tenant calling me at 4 a.m, they've lost their keys because they're drunk, and they think because they saved the 3 or 4% with the agent, but actually, it's all about, having a better life, and just no news is good news as a landlord. That's how I look at it.
Well, I think as the letting agent community need to get this course out, Paul, to be fair, because I think that's really valuable.
Mm.
I mean, it's so difficult for a landlord. I mean, to be honestly, do you think a landlord can manage the property themselves? Or somebody who's got one property, who's got a job doing something else? Is it possible to do it properly?
I think, you know what, I've been helping landlords and letting agents. I worked out the other day since 1991. Okay, you're supposed to say, Paul, you don't look old enough. So
You don't look old enough, Paul.
okay, well done. You didn't need any prompting then.
I missed the demo.
I've got grey hair.
So I'm just dying it.
I think what it is, some landlords can if they live close to the property. The problem you've got is keeping up to speed with everything, and obviously being fined and doing stuff, and diarisation dust, the deregulation, that and having the right documentation. And really, letting agents now are compliance officers. That's what they've turned into be. And tech is so important, and landlords don't get it. I mean, that's why part of what we did, and I suppose what you'll ask me some questions about business. I oversee a website that we bought 2 years ago called Landlord Zone, which is one of the biggest landlord websites out there. We get 250 to 300,000 visits a month, and we update landlords. So you are going to get landlords that are emotionally involved with the property, and they want to manage, because a lot of them, they used to live in the property and they've got memories, and that's also a big problem because they don't see it as a business. And now the messaging from government and everybody is, if you're a landlord, even if you've got one property, you're looking to scale up, this is totally and utterly a business. And you have to have some sort of business plan in place, you know, and landlords just don't see that. And that's why a lot of landlords fall into problems. And dare I say it, there's agents that aren't so great out there. And, you know, with my other hat on, sitting on the advisory council of the property redress scheme, we come across issues as well. But, you know, there's never been so much more need of a letting agent than there is now, most definitely.
I say, I mean, I had a very interesting conversation with my bank manager a couple of years ago. It was, but it stands out because it was like one of those like ooh, moments. And we were talking about charges, and I was trying to get him down on his fees and all that sort of stuff. And he said, "Oh, lettings." He said, "I've got a property I rent out." I said, "Oh, brilliant." I said, "Do you use an agent?" No, I've done it myself. I said, "Oh, right, okay." I said, "How are you coping with the Deregulation Act?" You had the what? Sorry, I said the Deregulation Act,
Exactly.
the testing the smoke alarms and how to rent guide even. Oh no, it's all sorted. I got a tenancy agreement from
of course.
It's all sorted. I went, "Oh, right, okay." And I was
But
like,
I mean, look, I was involved with the deregulation. I had to go to Parliament to give evidence against retaliation eviction, and we had shelter there and whatever. And I said, I've been doing this for 20 odd years, and I've never heard of retaliation eviction. It's only 0.5%. I mean, obviously, we hear about nightmare tenants and rogue landlords, and obviously I'm on a TV program called Nightmare Tenants, Slum Landlords, and there are slum landlords out there, but let's be very clear, and obviously we're in COVID times and there's a lot more bad tenants out there, and a good tenant doesn't turn into a bad tenant overnight. Let's be very clear about this. But you know, landlords do need letting agents. The biggest problem I see when I train letting agents up, and I used to go in their offices and I don't do that so much now obviously, is they undersell themselves. You know, I put a question to David Cox, who obviously used to be at Arden, and I was doing all these talks, and no one's ever asked me this question. No one's ever answered this question. On a 6-month tenancy agreement, okay, how much time does a letting agent's office spend in that whole transaction of letting? So that's finding a tenant, advertising the tenant, doing the viewings, doing all the compliance stuff, then the management team, then the referencing, putting the deposit, all that stuff, and then dealing the daily management. How much time does it take? It must be hours and hours and hours. And actually, if you explain that to a landlord, when they come and see you, whether they make a call on the phone or whether they see you in your office, you know, and when I do try and teach, because I come from a different mindset, really you bamboozle your landlord with regard to what you do in your management, because most landlords won't read their terms of business and what you do, won't understand it, but you need to explain it and explain, you know what, you're not going to get a call, I'm dealing with everything, and I'm going to make sure you're not going to get fined £5,000, or you're not going to have this and not have that, and you're going to protect the landlord. Because a lot of letting agents, they get it wrong, because, you know, and I see the days of let only possibly dwindling, and actually if you are an agent and you offer a let only, I think it's going to come to the point where we're going to find you a tenant, there's your tenant, you do the paperwork yourself. Because historically a tenant will stay in the property longer if they use a letting agent, okay, and they will find better tenants. You know, I hear horror stories, as you can imagine, from my company and from the TV program. I'm not going to name websites, but where, you know, these serial bad tenants, they call up these landlords that don't use an agent, and they trick their way into the property and end up being a complete and utter nightmare.
It's a nightmare, isn't it? And I think you're actually right, Paul. I think a lot of letting agents, when they go out to take properties on, they still sell, I call it products and services. Oh, look at our awards, and this is, you know, our reviews, and this is how good, and we'll do this and do that. It's like, no, tell them about all the things you're going to do. You know, all the legislation you're going to have to do, the checks you're going to have to do, the immigration checks, the check in the earlobes, all those sort of things. Just go down. We do something called the rant method. We just go, and they just go.
You bombard them, and they go, okay, take my property away, take it. Landlords don't care about awards. Let's be clear about this. I mean, I'll speak to an agent, and you'll know this, Sally, because we've been in the circuit and you train loads and loads of agents. I'll say to an agent, well, what is your USP? What is your unique selling point? We're a local company. We have good local, you know, all the usual stuff, you know. Yeah, exactly. They don't want to hear about that. I mean, I asked the question, and I'll be honest, I asked this question, 2 questions, and I'm sure you must train it as well. You know, engagement is paramount, personality, trust, you know, it's all that type of stuff. Making sure you look after the property, make sure your tenant pays rent on time is important. But I asked a question at an ALA meeting, I can't remember what it was, and I said, I had a packed crowd, you know, it was a regional meeting. I said, how many of you, and you're very much into this, you're like me, you write loads of content. How many of you, and I've seen you write, you know, educate the same as me, how many of you write content? on local knowledge and what you do and how you do it and stats, this, that, whatever, because obviously someone's property is their biggest asset, you know, and that's the biggest thing that they've got. And then there was 2 hands that went up out of an audience of 60. And then I say to them, how many of you go to networking meetings? And we met at a networking meeting years and years ago. How many of you would go to the councils and engage with councils or go to PIN meetings or the NRLA meeting or something like that? And 2 hands went up there. And unfortunately, like everyone else in this world, this strange world, letting agents got to up their game. You know, you've got a lot of competition on there. You know, you've got landlords that are going to leave the market because of what's going on with the evictions. And I'm sure you'll talk about that later on. And Section 24 and feel cheesed off with the government that they're being picked on and all that type of stuff. And then you've got the full stamp duty where you think, oh, you know what, I'm going to cash out. You know, you are going to have landlords that you're going to leave. And then hopefully you'll sell the property in your sales department. But yeah, you've got to keep on evolving, you know, as a business.
One of the things that I've identified, certainly when I was Lara and going all over the country and Northern Ireland, Scotland, I'm not so much in Northern Ireland, I don't have many regulations over there, but, you know, a lot of the UK was really under the feeling that, like you've just said, it's like a barrage of legislation coming at us. It's like every time we turn our emails on, there's another piece of legislation. And you know, from a letting agent's point of view, it's then a new process sheet has to be created. We have to then train that, and we've got to change and check everything's correct and look at the liabilities and adjust our fees and terms, all that sort of stuff and whatever. It is a pain in the backside. But one of the things I believe, and I'll ask if you believe it too, legislation to a letting agent is actually an advantage because it's the reason landlords need you. So what I tend to say to people is get bloody good at legislation and regulations and understanding the bits and bobs that you need to understand, because that's your superpower. That is why people are going to use you, because they know you're damn good. And like you said, creating content and things like that. But why is there such a resistance to people to really embrace that as a USB as opposed to their reviews and their awards and their whatevers?
You know what, that's a really good question. You know what I said, I did literally, but this morning you'll see I opened up the Landlord Investment Show. We had 1,600 landlords online, and you know, and I've been on the stage at Olympia with 500-600 people, and literally, you know me, I'm not shy, and I'm certainly not quiet, but I tell it how it is, right? And I've always done that. You know, is I said to landlords, I said, look, you do a great, you know, being landlords and landlording is a great job. You're unsung heroes. You know, if you care about your tenant and you want them to live in that property and it's a home, they're going to stay longer. You know, the average term of a tenancy was 4 years and 3 months prior to lockdown. You know, and obviously you won't get any void periods and all that type of thing. And I think, you know, I said to landlords, I said, and I'll answer a question in a second to agents, but I said to landlords, there's 2 things you can do. Okay. You know, yes, you can carry on, but if you keep it's no good moaning. Stop moaning. You know, what you're going to do is either get better at what you're going to do, okay, or if you don't want the aggro, give it to an agent full management, or if you don't like it and you're not in for the long term, sell up. You know, but actually, you know, the market is what, 21%. And I say to agents, you know, it's no point moaning. This is your job. And the more legislation actually helps you, it bamboozles landlords. But actually, you know, talk about the great things that you do. Talk about the incidences, you know, when you are doing viewings or, you know, you're doing inventories and I mean, you get a landlord, and we own My Deposits, as you know, we do 8,000 adjudications a year, you know, and we get landlords that are still doing inventories because they don't want to pay 65 quid to an inventory clerk. You know, and we see, and you just can't believe it. And, you know, the old saying, cheap is always expensive. And sometimes agents have got to look at their portfolio. Let's say they manage 100 properties, you know, and, you know, we all want the portfolio landlord that's got 15, 20 properties because you're dealing with one person. And then you've got Mr. Bloggs that's got 1 property and he calls you 100 times a day, but he's only paid you for let only. You know what? It's the old traffic light system, you know, red, amber, green. I train my landlord action staff, and we've got 220 staff here, right, in various things. I say, especially landlord action, I said, put a price on your time. And I say it's to letting agents, if they're sucking the life out of you, your landlords, you need to turn around and say, it's full management or nothing. We don't want you, you know, and they don't, because agents want to try and please, you know, and we even get agents that are trying to issue court proceedings themselves. The worst thing you can do, because your PO doesn't cover you. Issuing court proceedings now is harder than ever. There's reactivation notice, pre-trial hearings. There's so many things. And then you get sued because you're trying to help the landlord because you feel bad because the tenant's gone in arrears, but he's lost his job. That's not your fault. So, you know, there is the fine line, but you know what? Agents do a great job. And in the last 2-3 years, I've never promoted more to landlords. And I come across, you know, I speak to thousands of landlords across all networks. And even on the TV program, this series, you'll see I go into 2 agents in East London that are stealing landlords' rents. I name and shame. You know, one guy got a little bit shirty with me, but you have to wait and see that. And I expose dodgy letting agents. And, you know, I've been a massive supporter of client money protection that came in as well. Unfortunately, that came a law, you know, recently.
So let's talk about you, the businessman. So guys, those of you who just tuned in, we're here with Paul Shamplina. He is a formidable and phenomenal guy. I've known this guy for absolutely ages. He's written books. He must have spoke on every single stage in the whole of the UK at one point. He is a TV star. You'll see him on, what is it, Unscrupulous Tenants and Road
No, it's called Love Island.
Yeah, Love Island. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. You'll see.
No, hold on. You're supposed to say that you weren't supposed to laugh when you said that. You were supposed to be serious, Sally.
You're a bit old for Love Island, Paul. Sorry.
No, I'm laughing. Nightmare Tenant Slum Landlords. I filmed on Channel 5. It's most probably on now on 5 Star. So they repeat it all the time, and luckily it's been a big hit. So they filmed. I filmed a 6 series. It's, you know, it's amazing. It's gone 6 series. Prior to lockdown, so just before February, I filmed for about 8 months. Right. I've got there's 10 episodes. I've got about 12 stories, and I was told it was coming out in a few weeks, but they pushed back the scheduling because of lockdown. It changes all the time, but yeah, it's been a big hit. And you know, I strangely, I get emails from people all over the world that I've seen on Netflix and just random emails. It's quite mad, really. But yeah, I still enjoy doing it, albeit I do get a few. You know, some people don't want to see a camera at 6 a.m. At them sometimes.
Don't ever come up my door, please.
No, but you always pay your rent. I spoke to a bank manager.
Oh, jolly good. Excellent. Okay. But guys, I mean, this guy is phenomenal. So I mean, he's like a media star, he's an author, he's a speaker, he's a businessman. Recently sold out to Hamilton Fraser about 3 years ago. He is the mover and shaker in the industry. So Paul, tell me, how the hell did you get into all of this? What got you here? What was the story?
You know what? I just wanted to work from a young age. I was not academic at all. I left school with no O-levels, I promise you. And I'm old enough to do O-levels. I wish I did GCSEs because I was a bit better at coursework. I even did, this is no word of a lie, this is terrible. I even did typing at school, right? And actually it was good because I started my own business at a young age. And I only did typing because I thought, well, it's a room full of girls. That was the only logic, actually. But actually, it was the best thing that I ever did, actually, from typing. And then what happened was I started work at 16 years old. I worked in a law firm in Brighton, 87 to 90, I think it was. And I worked in the recession when the interest rate was 15-16%. And at 17 years old, I used to do court hearings before judges, for like district judges. And I remember I did about 10 to 12 hearings one day. Like straight, because like for all the big banks, because obviously a lot of repossessions were happening. People are younger watching this, you know, watching this Zoom or whatever, and hearing this podcast. They won't remember the days of 15%, and now we've got 0.5% interest rate, something ridiculous. So I did that, worked for an law firm, then I moved back up to London, and then I really learnt my craft working with a guy from working a big law firm to a one-man band. And I was doing I had the confidence of working with this guy as a lawyer, from doing litigation. I went to the Old Bailey, did a bail application. So I had the confidence, and I was doing a lot of stuff like that. And then what happened was I wanted to work for myself, and always work for myself. So then at 24, I started a private investigation and a commercial bailiffing company and a process
24.
serving. 24, yeah.
Wow.
And but when I was 18 or 19, I issued my first possession claim while working with solicitors. So I was doing evictions, then working solicitors. So I was a bit of a jack of all trades. I was very versatile, and that was my strength. So, you know, some of the days being a private investigator, I did some mad things. I mean, I'd have to do surveillances. I'd have to go to brothels, obviously doing surveillances naturally. I'd be doing process serving documents on people. I'd have to get information. I'd be doing evictions, hearings, all mad stuff on a day-to-day basis. But when I started that business, I was totally skint. I rented my flat out. I bought a flat for £40,000 in London, in northwest London, nice. 1-bed flat. And I was skint at that time. I had to rent that out, and I went to move with my friend. and I was determined to work for myself. And you know what? When you're working for yourself, people say you can't do it, and they say no, and they say get a job, and that drove me on even more. And I remember days, literally. I remember, and there's things that stick in. I remember what it was like being skinned. I remember buying a car for £300, a mini Metro, and the car seat was broken, and I couldn't afford to get it fixed, and I had to drive down to Cornwall like that. I had to go and do an investigation in Cornwall, in Liskeard, I remember. So I remember the days of being skinned. And then what happened was I met my previous partner in Landlord Action, who sadly passed away, and I evicted 23 illegal immigrants for him in a 3-bed house in northwest London. And he goes, I can't, but we used to play football with each other, and that's how we met. And that's how we had the idea of Landlord Action. And we said, well, you know what, I do it for fixed fees. And then we thought of the name Landlord Action, and then we did fixed fees because he used to pay lawyers a lot of money. And then basically how the business took off is we basically were a disruptor. We basically came out and said, you know what, lawyers are greedy. They charge too much money. We're going to offer fixed fees, and it's going to cost the landlord this. Because every time you speak to a lawyer, and we all know as we speak to lawyers, you know, if conveyancing lawyers do fixed fees, but they didn't do it back then. Every time you write a letter, every time you pick up the phone, they charge you money. So we did that, and this was in 2000. And then what happened was really how it accelerated. I was drafting the paperwork, and we were using solicitors, and I was chasing my tail, doing everything, just literally me and him. And then we had an article which changed everything in the Evening Standard. We had a half-a-page editorial saying a blessing for landlords, and a really well-known, esteemed journalist called Mirabai Halal said this is the best product I've seen for landlords in 10 years. And she wrote an article, and the phones went, it came too early, but you can't pick these things up. And we had about 10,000 calls from it. And we just me and my mate, and I was like, almost, you know, and I worked like a dog. I've always been a grafter, and I still am really. And that kind of like was a springboard. And then we kicked on, brought staff on, and then, you know, and then it just evolved from there really.
Do you ever stop and breathe and rest, Paul? Or
no, I don't. I've had 2 Red Bulls already today. You'd be pleased to know. You'd be pleased to know at 6 o'clock this morning, I was boxing with my boxing trainer. So yeah, so I'm very hyperactive, and I drive my wife and my kids mad.
So you've mentioned there's some highs, you've mentioned some lows, but I mean, you recently sold out your business. How did that feel? Just passing your baby on to somebody else? Was that,
you know what? That's a great question. And it is like your baby, and it's quite hard to let go of your baby. I was going to say something else about breastfeeding and stuff like that, but I won't go into there. Like nurturing something and giving it away. It was really, really hard because I had 2 other partners, and they got bought out. And then part of the deal was, and I know Eddie really, really well, and he's a good friend of mine who started Hamilton Fraser 25 years ago, and My Deposits, is that I prior to doing that, I was working with Direct Line. I had a radio show on LBC, and I wanted to do other things. I didn't want to manage staff anymore, and I wanted to just bring out other products and do other things and do a bit of consult. And he basically, we worked on it. It took a while. So it was strange. It took ages. And I just said to him, and I said this to you before we came on air, I said, I don't want to manage any staff. I don't want to do anything operationally. Just let me bring in new business and have some ideas. And, you know, since I've been here, we bought Landlords, and we've started about 4 or 5 different other businesses. And it's great to be here and surround yourself with people that are better than you in other areas, you know, and have a team.
They've sort of embraced your creative talent, haven't they?
Yeah.
Really, whether it's creating content or getting out there on TV or talking on shows like this or whatever it is you're doing, they've embraced that, and by allowing you to just focus on that, they will get so much more value from you, I guess, than saying go manage those 20 people over there.
No, because I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. I mean, don't get me wrong, I drive them mad. They think I'm completely potty, but I think about everything commercially. You know, I look at things like, you know, in lockdown, we started 3 new businesses. I mean, we started OME, which is a deposit replacement alternative. We started HF Assist, which is a letting agent advice line for 240 quid a year. We started a mediation business because the courts are suspended, so we mediate. And letting agents do mediate between landlords and tenants, because now, as you know, it can take a year to evict a tenant. But, you know, we would do at Landlord Action, we do something like 1,700 cases a year. And at court, we had 500 cases stuck in the court system for 6 months, and we have landlords crying down the phone to us, which is tough. So, you know, I have these ideas, and they can actually happen. Where beforehand, when I was at Landlord Action, I was just chasing my tail, because all you're thinking about is you've got to pay the VAT, you've got to pay the wages, you've got this, you've got that, and I need to bring work in. And you're so involved in a business, you can't step back. And so since I've come on board, I can do stuff that I really enjoy, which is really important.
Wow, that's amazing. So what is the future now? What's the plan for you now as part of Hamilton Fraser? What are you going to keep launching businesses, or?
Yeah, I think, you know what, we're people don't realize how many brands we've got. So we've got 200 staff, you know, we've got 400,000 landlords on our books, you know, with all the brands. We've got 20,000 letting agents with all the brands. I think, you know what, I've tried to raise the bar with regard to education, understand the consumer, understand the landlord. Because what happens is when you go into big businesses, it's very systematic, and systems, process, and whatever. And, you know, I'm very much about the customer journey, you know, and understanding what's happening, you know. And I think for me is, you know, I want our customers to know that we're not just My Deposits, we're the property redress scheme, we're landlord. So for me, as a salesman, a marketeer, I suppose, if you want to call it that, I want clients to buy other products from us, and I want the messaging to go out there. So yeah, I mean, we do, you know, there's 4 or 5 of us here that are advising the government at all different times on various different consultation papers. So, you know, we have the government coming in here asking our advice. You know, I mean, lockdown, I got contacted by the Ministry of Justice to ask for advice about ex-offenders to be rehoused in the private rental sector. And, you know, so I do quite enjoy that part of it as well, to share my knowledge with government. And that they do listen, which, believe it or not, people won't understand, but they do, you know.
No slowing down for Paul just yet then?
No, not yet. I'd get bored. I couldn't, yeah, I'd get bored.
So we're here in the middle of an evictions crisis, or whatever you want to call it at the moment. I mean, over the next, I don't know, 6, 12, 18 months, 2 years, it's going to be absolute mayhem, Paul. Talk to us, for the people in the industry.
Yeah.
Hell, what do we do? It's crazy.
You know what it is? I mean, look,
don't forget, I've got ideas there actually with mediation and things. But
well, we brought mediation out. I mean, you know what, Sally? This is my third recession I've worked in. All I've known is collecting debt, making people bankrupt, doing repossession. I sound like a terrible guy, but basically, I've been helping people get their property back. And obviously, we have a team we're a regulated firm of solicitors. The reality now is, and it's until the end of March, is it's a 6-month notice period. I've got landlords hoping that rent arrears go to 6 months rent arrears so they can serve a 4-week notice instead of a 6-month notice. So what I've launched, and I launched another product with Landlord Action and the Property Redress Scheme, is we serve an eviction notice, and 7 days later, we have impartial mediators that will call up and get instructions from the landlord, but speak to the tenant and try and do a deal. Because now more than ever, and I say this to letting agents, and you need to explain this to the landlord, it's about doing deals for tenants to leave. Because bearing in mind, we're now in November, we're the November the 3rd. And I remember saying, 2nd week of lockdown, you wait until Q1, Q2 next year, because that's the true reflection of where we're going to be in the market. Forget about now, because you've got government support, you've got a false housing bounce with regard to the stamp duty. What's going to happen there? And a quarter of eviction cases got issued more or less this year. I mean, last year there was 110,000. Next year it's going to shoot right up. And then, of course, with all of that, there was the talk of banning of Section 21, which I've been involved in. That's going to go, most definitely, in the housing courts. So realistically, it could take a landlord, and obviously there's a massive backlog in the moment, you know, because there were 6 months the courts just stopped. You could still issue, but they couldn't be heard. Realistically, it could take a landlord after 6 months serving a notice, tenants not paying, and then issuing court proceedings, getting the bailiffs in, and maybe another 8 months on top. You could be talking at about 14 months, and the landlord not getting the rent. And, you know, landlords are not banks. You know, a lot of them aren't rich, where there's a perception that all landlords have got loads of money because they own a property. But I've had landlords literally, and we call ourselves the Landlord Samaritans at Landlord Action, right? We have landlords, and we've got some horrendous stories, and you'll see them on Nightmare Tenants when they come out. And it's you know, I have landlords crying down the phone to me saying, I need to move it back in the property, I'm homeless, or I've got to sell it, I'm in debt, I'm going to be made bankrupt, I lost my, because landlords are losing jobs as well, not just tenants. So it's really going to be troubling. And all I can say is, you know, the National Residential Landlord Association have done a great job, and we work closely with them with regard to promoting tenant saver loans. And that has to come in like what's happened in Scotland and in Wales, where basically, you know, the government will loan the tenant the money for the rent arrears, and they've been affected by COVID, and they can prove that. And that money is directly paid over to the landlord, because that's the sustains tenancies. And the whole reason for the delays is to stop a massive big glut of evictions and homelessness. And that's
Why do you think they've not done that here in England?
I don't know, but I've just heard LSL have got behind it now, which is good. The answer is they're saying at the moment, and we've heard this, and I speak to Ben Beadle all the time from the NRLA, is the government has said they've paid enough money in. There's 2.5 million tenants now on universal credit, so they're supporting landlords through universal credit. And we're not going to talk about universal credit now because we'll be here for another hour. I don't get started on that. So at the moment they're not doing it, but I think they have to do it. But you know what? The money has to be paid back, Sally. So far the government have borrowed 155 billion pounds for this pandemic. I mean, every sector's been affected, and we as landlords and letting agents, the worst affected in all of this, which you didn't have to be Einstein to work out, is the commercial property market. How's that going to change? The high street would totally change.
Scary stuff. I mean, with mediation, one of the challenges I think a lot of people have said to me about mediation is that they're scared of the tenants claiming unlawful eviction or coercement or anything like that. You've obviously covered that off, Paul. You've got that covered.
Yeah. So what happens is on mediation, I mean, we've successfully mediated 45% of our cases. If a tenant doesn't want to talk to you, Sally, you can't mediate. It takes two to tango. So what happens is most of our instructions come from landlords or an insurance company. We get a few from letting agents, because letting agents feel that they need to be able to try and mediate to show their value for that management fee. Okay. But we have trained mediators because obviously we're doing mediations and arbitrations for my deposits, the PRS and all that stuff. So what we do is we do a deal. Yes, they pay off the money, and it's a deferment, or the landlords will write off the money, and we have a legally drafting agreement. But if the tenant defaults in that, which they do, then you're back to square one. The golden ticket to all of this is actually if the tenant agrees to vacate. And a lot of the time now, landlords are writing off the rent arrears, taking the hit, or they're given a month's rent, month's deposit so they can move on. And of course, that affects the problem with regard to, well, are they going to give them a reference? Because of course, all you're doing, and they should just pass the problem on to another landlord. And it's become ferocious out there. It's become dog eats dog. And I've never encountered anything like this. I mean, I get contact on social media, I would say 5 to 10 tweets or calls of engagement from landlords and tenants wanting advice and stuff. So it is about, I think at the moment, for a lot of landlords, it's about survival.
It's an awful situation. I mean, it is awful for everybody. It's awful for landlords, awful for tenants, it's awful for agents. It's awful for everybody. But I think you've got a cracking idea there, Paul. I think that sounds really interesting.
Well, we're one of the first to come to market on it. And it's, what it is? It's trying to educate landlords and letting agents about mediation, because what's going to happen is, and Tim, who's head of legal for Landlord Action, he's advising the government on mediation at the moment. So it will become part of the court process. It is with regard to social housing at the moment. Any social tenant that's in arrears, you have to mediate before you go to court. It's part of the process. So that's going to happen in the future, most definitely. Mediation, and of course, we put that in when we brought out the report of Beyond Section 21. Our provisions and requests are there's got to be more mediation, because of course the government want that because they want less court cases.
Now, I know you're a prolific content creator, and you with the TV and the radio and just content and shows. Why do you do all that? Because this is something that I talk to agents about all the time. And I say, like, come on, as business owners, we've got to promote ourselves and market ourselves. If you don't promote and market yourselves, it's just not going to happen. What difference would you say it makes to your business? Because I am continuously faced with, I put some videos out, nothing happened. I'm constantly hit with a barrage of objections, but I know you've made it work for you. But
we've got a lot in common.
Credit to that.
Yeah, we've got a lot. You know what? Have belief in yourself, belief in your personality. Come across sincere. I mean, look, I know I don't stop talking. I'm a bit cockney. I'm not privately educated.
Everyone's scared of you, Paul, as well.
No, they're not scared of me.
Everyone is scared of you, just so that we're clear.
No, they're not. But you know what? I tell it how it is, and I wear my heart on the sleeve. And I will literally say it how it is. And you know what? I've been at events. I mean, I did an event. I did a letting agent event. I'm not going to say which it was. It was in Oxford or something like that. I did this talk, and I've done over 500-600 talks or whatever online. I've done loads, and you get used to it, and And the feedback was he's too cockney, right? And I thought it was quite a compliment. I thought it was quite funny. I think that, you know what, if you're passionate and you know about your stuff, come out of it. I was not media trained. Okay. I did a talk and I thought, you know what, I'll do a talk. I had confidence, never done a talk before. I was absolutely bricking it on the first talk, you know, and I got better. And I stood up and I talked and whatever. And you might have people in your business that some might be good, but in front facing, whatever. And it is people buy into the personality. Just like you, Sally, I've seen you climb through the ranks, you know, and you've done exactly the same what I have, you know, with regard to your agency and now training. And we've been on the same type of path, really. And people buy into the person and they buy into the being accessible. I get people contacting me and they can't believe that I'm replying back to them. You know, I had a landlord that had my mobile phone number and he called me at 10 o'clock at night and I took a call. My wife went mad at me, but I took the call and I was speaking to him and helping him or whatever. So I think accessibility is really important, but, you know, it hasn't all been easy, you know, and I do, when I do a lot of media, I prefer doing radio than TV. I like the live stuff. I really do. Normally people say you've got a face for radio and all that type of stuff, but the TV stuff I kind of like get used to, but I love doing live radio, live TV. I get nervous. I have a nervous energy. I quite enjoy that. Or when I'm doing talks and I'm doing industry talks, more so to letting agents, you know, like I do a conference and there's like 500 agents in the room. I still get that nervousness and I quite like that. You know, I remember I did one talk in Walsall once to 450 landlords, and I heard, you know, and you know what, you want your humour and you want personality, but you want people to walk away and think, God, she knows or he knows what they're talking about. You know, I buy into them, and I think agents should do the same, but even if it's locally or nationally. And I did this talk, and I could have sunk or swim, but I did it. I said, everyone get up. And it was all doom and gloom landlords. You know those landlord events. We've been smashing us on the head. You're a naughty landlord. That. So I basically thought, you know, I'll give it a go. I said, everyone, give yourself a clap because you do a bloody good job, and it worked, right? But I thought, you know, if no one stood up and I was doing it, it could have sunk. But, so you've got to take a bit of risk. I mean, I've even fallen off on a stage once while doing a talk as well. And I cut my shin and I tried to style it and said, oh, you know, like that. So, but don't take yourself too seriously, you know, and don't be afraid of hard work, graft it, and don't be afraid of rejection, you know, just have self-confidence, you know, to do what you do. Don't give up. And, you know, I had no cash flow when I started, you know, and it is, I know it's an old cliche, you know, you've got, you know, I used to drive up to Manchester for 4 hours, do a talk for 45 minutes and drive straight down. I did that all the time. I mean, I don't do it as much now, but I listened to one thing, and I've done other businesses, and sometimes I wish I hadn't done other businesses. And one bit of advice that Alan Sugar gave, and he's so right, stick to what you know.
It's very true.
It is true. It is true. Stick to what you know, and your expertise will come to the fore. Don't be shy. You know, if you want to speak, we'll do some public speaking classes. You know, speak to other people, just gain confidence, but surround yourself by better people. You know, it's really important, but your personality has to come through. It's really important.
Still educate yourself, Paul? Because one of the things that a lot of people don't do is they go out of school, they get into a job, and then that's it. I mean, obviously you're educating yourself in legislation and stuff, but I mean, you know, you just mentioned there about Alan Sugar and, you know, there's some of the advice he's given. I mean, do you still go out there and seek to improve yourself?
Yeah, I do. You know what? I don't like, because when I'm at home, I'm completely different. I'm just shattered. And when I'm reading, my eyes are hurting me, whatever. And I'm starting to listen to a lot more podcasts. And sometimes when I'm on holiday, and I do relax, believe it or not, even though I've been on holiday for ages, right? And I'll read an autobiography. But I think I still like to get advice from people that I really respect and some mentors. And I've got one or two mentors that I've known for a long time. And I still get that. I mean, I'm doing a bit of property investing now, you know, and I should have done it 15, 20 years ago, right? And I didn't, because I plowed all my money into my business. I remortgaged my house. I took risks and whatever. And I'm still learning. And I think you've got to connect with someone as well. So I think it's always good in business, you know, to speak to someone outside. So I'll speak to, you know, I can speak to a pal of mine. He owns 130 properties, right? A really big landlord. We go out, we have a drink, and he told me about his day. And even like my best mate, one of my best mates since I was 12 years old, I knew in Brighton. He's the third biggest landlord in Brighton. He's got 850 tenants. Wow. And I speak to him, and he drives his Ferrari and and we have a laugh, and I try and bring him down. And I remember the days when he used to work at HM Samuels, shutting the shutters down and stuff like that. And I sometimes have to remind him. So it's good to connect with people, from when you've gone on a journey, and just also, but don't forget the bad times is a bit of advice I would say. Don't forget the bad times. Everyone falls on hard times. Don't forget them, because it keeps you focused.
So, you're an amazing person, Paul. You've managed to get to the top of your tree in so many different things. One final word for the people viewing in business, your one top tip of advice that you would give to people that maybe are struggling at the moment. They're going through hard times. Corona's hitting hard. What's your advice?
You know what? I struggled the first 6 weeks in lockdown at home. I think, oh my God, I'm at home here with my missus, my 2 kids, and my dog that drives me mad, right? Is this what's happening? And I had to focus on, if you're working remotely, and obviously the great thing is the housing industry is carrying on as per normal, respecting social distancing rules and whatever, is get a structure to your day. I'm a bit all over the place, as you most probably realise. Get a structure, okay? Look at where's your pipeline of sales, okay? How do you canvas? What do you do? Keep that separated, because when you're a one-man band, or we have a lot of really small letting agent clients for the property redress scheme, and we try and support them and give them ideas or whatever. Is you have to put a price on your time. Don't chase business that's not worth chasing. Get advice. Try and make sure that you're not too isolated. Educate yourself to organisations like yourself. But you know what is, cash is king, and I understand that, and having cash flow. But you know what? Show why are you different. And remember, you were on the high street. There's 6 letting agents on the high street, and I'm sure you've said the same thing. All right. Why are you different to those 5 other letting agents? And if you're struggling to answer that question, okay, how would a landlord know the answer to that? And that's what you've got to break down, because we know landlords aren't going into letting agent offices now. We know most of them are going onto Rightmove, Zoopla, on the market and whatever, and you've got to rely, emails and phones or whatever. Get good on the phones. It's really important. But landlords need you. There's loads of landlords coming back into the business. There's landlords that go and landlords that come back in, So, but be focused, and don't take no for an answer.
And I'm not surprised you came out with that one. Thank you, Paul. You've been absolutely amazing.
I really enjoyed it, Sally.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Take care.